Leave him alone! What the
Get the out of the way!
Why are you gonna face me? He's a U.S. citizen, you stupid ass Leave him alone! He's a U.S. citizen!
Sit back right there!
What are you doing? He's a U.S. citizen! His brother's a Marine Corps officer! Get off of him!
Don't move me!
No!
Stay right there! Stay right there!
Don't resist!
Stay right there!
Hey guys, wow. The cereal is still warm when the front door slams. You hear it from upstairs, the soft clatter of porcelain on tile, a child's fork falling, and a single shout that sounds too far away to be real. By the time your socks hit the hallway floor, it's already happening. There are men at the driveway, vests marked police in thick yellow, even though they're not local cops. One of them is gripping your mother's wrist, another holds a clipboard, and the third is just watching. His sunglasses catch the pink spill of sunrise like it's any other Tuesday morning. It's not. This wasn't supposed to happen. So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. Drop your location and local time in the comments. I read them all, and let's go on the journey of today's story together. You're still barefoot when she's pushed into the back of a silver SUV. The neighbors pretend they don't see. Your younger brother stands behind you, clinging to your t-shirt like a parachute cord. The agent, he looks no older than your cousin, doesn't even look at you. He just mutters, "Routine pickup. Got a warrant," as if that explains why your mother isn't kissing you goodbye. Later, the news calls it standard enforcement. They don't mention your mom's 6-year-old pending visa or her spotless record. They don't talk about her tutoring kids after church, or the way she still pays taxes with an ITIN. What they do say, ICE officials cannot confirm the details of the operation, but assure that all enforcement efforts prioritize public safety. And that's how the lie starts. According to a 2024 ICE press bulletin, raids are part of targeted, intelligence-led enforcement operations. But in practice, this intelligence often amounts to outdated databases, clerical errors, and vague tips. You're not a criminal. Your mom isn't a criminal. And yet by 7:15 a.m., she's chained at the ankles in a county van, heading to a detention center with peeling paint and no translator. Her only crime? Living here.
You just need to stay back. This is an active scene right now.
It's not a active scene!
You don't remember when the fear started feeling normal? Maybe it was after the first quiet knock at your neighbor's place, when ICE agents claimed they were there to verify identities. Maybe it was the month they raided the halal butcher down the street, saying someone with a stolen visa once worked there. That was 2 years ago. They never found the guy. But the butcher lost his license anyway. You scroll past headlines now without blinking. ICE arrests 120 in Texas Operation Surge. The articles bury the details halfway down the page. They rarely lead with the truth. 92% of those taken had zero violent criminal history. Most had nothing at all. But the photo at the top of the article shows a man with tattoos, chains, and a blurry orange jumpsuit. That's the image that sticks. ICE wasn't always like this. In 2003, it was created as part of the newly formed Department of Homeland Security, framed as an arm of post 9/11 national protection. The message was clear: keep America safe. But over time, safety was redefined. Not from bombs, but from gardeners, babysitters, factory workers. You think back to a ProPublica report from 2022, outlining how arrest quotas were quietly reintroduced in several field offices. Officers told reporters they were encouraged to meet numbers, a term never admitted publicly, but repeated often enough in internal Slack messages to raise eyebrows. In Tennessee, a woman was picked up outside her dialysis appointment. In Colorado, ICE flagged a 19-year-old dreamer's car because of an outdated insurance registration. Both were detained. Neither had committed a crime. You check the latest ICE enforcement manual. It lists public safety priorities. But under priority arrest criteria, the language gets murky. Previous removal, entry without inspection, pending immigration proceedings. Legal bureaucratic language just vague enough to justify almost anything. Meanwhile, you're left holding a bowl of soggy cereal, wondering how protecting America involves tearing down homes like yours. And no one explains why the agents always arrive before sunrise, always with 3 cars, always without warning.
That's my
You meet Jose in a fluorescent-lit holding room. He doesn't speak until the guards leave. His fingers tremble slightly as he folds his intake forms for the third time. He's from Honduras, he tells you that first. Fled the gangs in 2021, crossed through Chiapas on foot, and applied for asylum as soon as he reached El Paso. He still keeps the stamped USCIS receipt in his sock. The story ICE tells is different. A felony warrant. That's what the agent said during the arrest loudly, so the neighbors heard. But the truth? It was a clerical mix-up. Someone with the same name, different birth date, flagged on a local police database in Utah. A data entry glitch. That's how Jose, who washes dishes at a diner in Fresno, ends up in a cell meant for violent offenders. 43 days. That's how long he's detained before anyone reviews his paperwork. He spends the first week in a for-profit ICE facility where the lights never fully turn off. He shares a cell with 5 others, one coughing blood. There's one toilet, no privacy, no interpreter. Jose says he tried explaining he'd never been to Utah. No one listened. Not even his public defender, who spoke only English and met with him twice through a fogged plexiglass divider. You feel the chill of the room, even through your jacket. You notice the thinness of his arms, how his shirt hangs loose now. Jose says ICE confiscated the photos of his daughter, said they were unapproved materials. Her name is Estefani. She's 8. She wrote him letters in crayon he never received. In a bizarre twist, you later read that ICE had posted a press release celebrating Jose's arrest, calling him a removal priority with an active criminal warrant. The warrant was dropped. No retraction followed, but the article shared by dozens of local outlets remains online, haunting search results, shaping the narrative. ICE never issued a correction. And Jose? He lost his job. His landlord changed the locks. He's still trying to get custody back.
Where is he going? That's my husband!
You sit at your kitchen table, scrolling through the latest TRAC report, your finger tracing the data as if numbers could speak. And in a way they do, coldly, clearly. The report's title is clinical, Immigration and Customs Enforcement Detention Statistics 2024. But the subtext? Devastating. Out of 126,004 ICE arrests made last year, 92% involved individuals with no criminal record, not nonviolent records, no record at all, not even traffic violations in most cases. And yet, the ICE narrative continues to frame these people, mothers, grandfathers, kids, just aged out of foster care, as threats to public safety. You zoom in on one particularly jarring chart. It shows an uptick in detentions during holiday weeks, Thanksgiving, Christmas, even Mother's Day. When asked why, ICE said it was due to seasonal processing alignment. What does that even mean? The numbers spike in late November and early January, when families gather, when people let their guard down. You remember the words of Acting ICE Director Tay Johnson from a 2023 press call. We are enforcing immigration law, not criminal law. Status violations are not crimes, but they are violations of federal regulations. It's a sentence so dry it burns. Legal speak to justify broken windows. You compare this to what ICE shows on its public dashboard. Top removal offenses, illegal reentry, drug offenses, assault. But click further and you realize those only represent 6.3% of all cases. The rest, administrative violations, no charges filed, or simply blank. Then there's the geography. TRAC's mapping shows ICE field offices in Florida, Texas, and Arizona process the highest volume of arrests, often through community sweeps rather than individual warrants. You dive into ProPublica's reporting and find that in one field office, agents were instructed to leave no stone unturned. That translated into waiting outside grocery stores, DMV buildings, and even elementary schools. You think back to Jose, to your own neighbor whose only misstep was missing an immigration hearing in 2017 because the court changed her venue without notice. The system says she failed to appear. The data says she never stood a chance. You sit across the table from 2 people. One wears a suit, the other wears grief. The first, an ICE policy advisor, says the same line you've heard 100 times. We don't make the laws, we enforce them. He explains how enforcement prioritization shifted under each administration. He points to internal guidelines like the 2021 Mayorkas memo, which outlined case-by-case discretion. He leans back in his chair and says, we only go after those who pose a risk. But you already know that 92% of those arrested had no criminal record. The second her name is Maricela holds up a worn photo of her son. His name was Victor. He was 19. ICE detained him during a workplace sweep at a meatpacking plant in Iowa. He had DACA status, but his paperwork was still processing after a delay caused by the 2023 government shutdown. Victor begged to show them his documents. No one listened. He was deported. 3 months later, he was found dead near the Mexico border, his body unclaimed for a week. Now you try to balance the scale. You hear one side say, "We are a nation of laws." The other side says, "And what about justice?" One calls them aliens. The other calls them dads, aunties, best friends. The ICE rep references national security, but offers no data showing that low-level detainees reduce threats. Meanwhile, the ACLU published a 2023 study showing that mass ICE raids often correlate with increases in local crime because witnesses and victims grow too afraid to speak. You ask the ICE rep, "Would you detain someone just for showing up to court?" He shrugs, "If they have an order." You ask Maricela, "What would you say to them if you had 5 minutes?" Her voice cracks. "I wouldn't say anything. I'd make them sit in Victor's empty room." Your hands are clenched now. You realize this isn't a debate about policy. It's about whose humanity is negotiable and who gets to decide. You drive into La Gloria, Texas. Population, barely 3,200. A dusty blink of a town where folks wave from porches and everyone knows who bakes the best tamales. It used to smell like sugar and cinnamon on weekends, especially near Abuelita's Panaderia. But now the store is shuttered, its windows papered with faded, closed until further notice signs. There's no foot traffic, no laughter from kids stealing extra churros, just silence and stories stuck in the air like smoke. You park beside the church, where Father Ignacio still holds Mass in both English and Spanish. He tells you what happened that Friday afternoon when ICE swept through the farmers market. They arrested 11 people, 6 vendors, 2 teenage volunteers, and a man who had come to drop off his wife's lunch. No criminal warrants, just routine enforcement. By Monday, the bakery was closed. Its owner, Doña Leticia, had been taken. She had a pending green card petition, married to a U.S. citizen, never even had a parking ticket. Her husband now drives 70 miles daily to bring her clothing at the South Texas Detention Complex, where she's been held for over 5 weeks. You talk to the owner of a local hardware store. Sales are down 40%. People are scared to leave their homes, he shrugs, even the white folks. He tells you about a quinceañera that was canceled, not because of money, but fear ICE would show up at the dance hall. According to a report by the Migration Policy Institute, community-level ICE raids have measurable economic effects: worker shortages, school absences, decreased consumer spending. The trauma ripples out. It's not just the arrested who vanish. It's the joy, the rhythm, the cultural heartbeats of small-town life. You visit the school principal. She says 1/3 of her students were absent the week after the raid. One girl cried during recess, she tells you. She thought her mom would be next. She's 6. La Gloria was never dangerous, but it's wounded not by crime, by fear. You stare at the word again. Illegal. It's scrawled in permanent marker on a locker door in a high school gym in Nevada. Below it, someone added, "Go back where you came from." You wonder who wrote it and whether they even know what that means. Where did she come from? The girl whose locker that is. Where did you? The word slips out of mouths easily. It shows up on news banners, campaign slogans, and comment sections like "Rust quiet," "Spreading," "Corroding." But when you dig deeper, when you untangle laws from feelings, you see how arbitrary the idea of illegal really is. You think back to the Chinese Exclusion Act, or the Bracero Program, or Japanese internment moments in American history, when legality was defined not by justice, but by fear. Immigration laws have always moved like tides, shaped by who's in power and what they're afraid of. In 2023, ICE labeled over 190,000 individuals as deportable. But buried in that number was an 11-year-old with no family, a woman who just miscarried, and a man who fought fires in California last summer. You open a TRAC chart and find another odd truth. Over 60% of deportations in the last 2 years originated from traffic stops. The rest? Things like visa overstays, paperwork lapses, or missed court dates, many caused by system delays. And once you're marked, it's almost impossible to unmark yourself. You hear an ICE agent in a leaked body cam video joke. They always cry when the cuffs come out. The room laughs. No one questions why children cry when strangers yank away their parents. It's just assumed, normalized. Maricela calls it administrative cruelty, a violence dressed in protocol, and still politicians stand behind podiums calling for border security as if the enemy is a nanny, a dishwasher, a seventh grader. You begin to see the philosophy behind it, all the way language is used to dehumanize, how paperwork becomes a weapon, and how silence allows it. You wonder, if laws lose their soul, are they still laws, or just sharp tools in the wrong hands? You find yourself standing in the doorway. It's not your house, it belongs to someone else. A woman you don't know, holding her child tightly, trying to explain in broken English that her husband won't be home tonight. She doesn't say where he is. She doesn't have to. You already know. Her kitchen smells like pozole and bleach. The TV plays low Spanish cartoons, their brightness at odds with the mood. There's a knock at the door and she freezes. Doesn't breathe. You check your watch. It's just UPS. But for a full minute, you feel what she feels. Every knock is a question. Every shadow a threat. You leave and the road feels different now. You see houses, not just buildings. Kids playing, but every smile carries weight. You remember Jose, Maricela, La Gloria. You remember the 92%. You remember that the fear campaign worked because most people never knew the facts or didn't care to. You pull out your phone. You think about what you can do. And maybe it's not big. Maybe it's just sharing this story, leaving a comment, asking questions at a town hall. Maybe it's checking in with a neighbor who's always quiet. Maybe it's donating to the ACLU or signing a petition to reform ICE enforcement guidelines. Or maybe it's just refusing to look away, because silence is a choice, a powerful one. It decides what stories fade and what stories are remembered. You scroll through ICE's Twitter feed, mostly press releases about removal successes. They never show the empty dinner tables, the closed lockers, the tiny shoes left behind at detention facilities. But those are part of the story too. You press play on this video again, not because you forgot, but because you want someone else to see, to feel, to act. The facts are there. The fear is loud. But now you know, now you choose. So now take a deep breath. Let your shoulders fall a little as you sit back. You've carried a heavy story through the past few minutes, one stitched together from courtrooms, cold holding cells, family photographs, and silence that speaks louder than most headlines ever will. You've walked through flickering fluorescent lights and tear-stained bedrooms. You've looked into the frightened eyes of a mother and the tightly clutched fingers of a child left behind. But you're still here, and that means something, because this story isn't meant to crush you. It's meant to open something, a quiet awareness maybe, or the start of a new question, one that doesn't go away after the video ends, one that lingers. Ask yourself, what would you want others to do if it were your family, your neighborhood, your community, behind the locked doors and early morning knocks? We are not meant to live in fear of each other, not behind legal jargon or political theater, not while truth sits waiting behind data tables and the clatter of metal cuffs on tile floors. You may not be able to rewrite policy or reverse time, but you can keep this story alive. You can repeat it, share it, break the spell of silence that lets fear feed on ignorance. Tomorrow, someone else might scroll past that statistic, 92%, without blinking. But not you. You've seen the names, heard the stories, felt the tension beneath it all. So if this moved you gently, fiercely, even just a little, let it move someone else too. Send this video to one person who needs to hear it. Post it. Talk about it. Ask better questions. Vote like stories matter. You're not standing in that doorway alone anymore. And somewhere maybe in La Gloria or a school hallway or a church basement, someone else feels just a little less invisible. That's how it starts.